What I'm going to do first is just do a quick recap on where we've been this morning, the journey we've been on this morning, because that word's been mentioned. And obviously the overarching being ACT. But let's look. So Dame Judith Hackett, she's made wide-ranging recommendations about strengthening building safety construction products. So that's a very positive step. It's all positives, hopefully, coming out today. Although we're going to look back, I think really looking forward is obviously the way ahead. Obviously, the government's undertaken a review, looking at fire safety programme, or building safety industry, etc. And the Building a Safer Future implementation plan issued last month refers back to Guidance Note 16, which was issued out last year, which did actually reference fire door sets. Were there being fire door sets, which I'll keep referring to. So looking at our pyramid of accountability, really focusing on ACT. So the government, as we know, conducted fire safety tests on GRP composite doors last year in 2018. Following the test, there were 5 initial failures of composite doors, and immediately a letter was issued to heads of building control stating that building control bodies should check that test evidence is presented of exposure for both sides of the door in order to demonstrate compliance with the requirements of approved document B. Pretty clear, referencing back to ADB. However, further guidance note 17 was put out to qualify that within the remit of BS 476-22 and EN 1634-1, provision is made for the testing of one side for timber and metal door sets. It's not a get out of jail clause per se, it was just clarification on that initial note. However, composite doors should still be tested from both sides as previous fire guidance. Do be aware, though, that the ongoing test of fire doors conducted by the MHCLG was on composites and timber doors, not just on composite door sets. For those eagle-eyed who finger on the pulse were aware at the weekend that the government released the results, the stats even, of the composite door tests, showing the failures, and it named and shamed, which fantastic. It did also say in a side letter accompanying that so far no timber doors have failed any of the product testing. So this is where we stand in terms of testing and alignment with the MHCLG at the moment. So there is ongoing additional product testing, and the government looked into review certification and assessments and how these are currently conducted by whom and to what standards. Because there is a bit of, not disorder as such, but there's been a little bit of reliance on assessments. And what's meant by global assessment, primary testing, secondary testing. It's pretty clear, but bundling together sometimes leads for misinterpretation. So when we're looking at accountability, still staying very strongly around ACT, in looking at a product, it's important to note that the door set is referred to as a controlled fitting. So going back to that phrase, the door set, we're not talking about the door leaf or individual components parts, we're always referring to the door set. And that's important because when you are looking at a door set, primarily you're going to a single source manufacturer. You're not sourcing parts from individual companies, bolting them together in a sort of a menage of component parts. It's a single source product. So the reliability there is on quality of testing, competence and compliance. So through the presentation, no bones by saying, we invest lots of money in research and development. So of course, the overarching theme behind here is around door sets, but the theme focuses across all building products, to be honest, when we're referring to ACT. So how a door set is designed is based on its function and the test standards to verify its performance. And that's crucial that you work closely with a manufacturer to make sure you have the correct product for your building, your property. And it's the correct building to function in that building, i.e. should it be an FD30, an FD60, some sort of compartmentation door, working closely with the door set manufacturer. They know their products. They will understand the product you require. Later on, and we might as well mention it now, we'll be talking about the golden thread. And that golden thread starts from the door set manufacturer because they will understand the product you require. So we're looking at design and testing. If we take a flat entrance door set and our current national building regulations, this type of door set's referred to in a number of documents, approved documents. Fire safety, smoke leakage, security, accessibility, energy and fuel conservation, and sound transmission. But equally, and we talk about current, I'm not going to mention the B word, if we look at how we stand currently, we also have to refer to the Construction Products Regulation and look at some harmonised European standards, HEN standards, which are currently enforceable. So we've got HEN standards EN 14351-1 and EN 14351-2, together with EN 16034. Yes, I know it sounds complicated, but these are HEN standards and they are key. And because of these, you should end up with a declaration of performance with each and every door set you purchase. So under the Construction Products Regulations, as we stand, every door set should come with a declaration of performance. Now, this document is key because it's the only document where you're going to see declared formally on a piece of paper your thermal transmittance rating for your door set, which could be very key in a social housing scheme, as it were. So moving on to design and testing, let's take a look at fire and smoke. We always couple fire and smoke together, quite rightly. Very rarely now will someone say, I just want a fire door. Equally, most people presume a fire door is a smoke door, as in it's going to protect you from smoke leakage. It isn't always the case. And there are ways, unfortunately, in current standards to bypass this smoke, the smoke that kills. So how does that happen? Well, the smoke test is a separate test to the fire test. It's actually called a cold smoke leakage test. So it's conducted independently of the fire test, and it's a completely separate certificate. But what some door set manufacturers may have been doing is just sticking on smoke seals or rendering or refurbing doors post-installation or ad hocly, just to give it that extra bit of smoke. There we go, it's going to protect you from smoke. We've stuck some seals on the door. Incorrect. It needs to come with the formal test certificate, which will be part of the pack you receive when you buy your door sets. So you can see how easy it could be to potentially bypass what is current regulations. Also, it's not clear, what isn't clear is that you can't fit all door sets into a test rig when you burn. You can fit 2 goalpost frame doors into a test rig. You can fit a large door assembly into a test rig, but it's difficult to get a multi-functional door with all the side screen fan lights into a test rig. So what one needs to do is look at individual tests, multiple tests against a fire door to ensure its competency. So say you've burnt a door once, and therefore you've got a certificate which you can wave around saying that door set's passed. Well, it's passed that primary test. It may need a significant number of multiple primary tests against other functions, i.e. you may look to put other types of closers, thresholds, ironmongery on that door. And to achieve those, without constantly relying on assessment or XAPs, you need to rely on primary test certification. Now, a lot of composite door manufacturers are now going down that route of securing primary test evidence, which is great, which is fine. But what you want to rely on those years and years of research and development where you've got multiple primary test certificates showing that those doors have passed in a test. Now what happens is all these tests are conducted, and what you'll have, and I've got one here if anyone wants to show, I can show you the difference in 2 reports. You'll have a primary test report, and you'll have something called, if you go down the BM Charter route, a global assessment. And all a global assessment is doing is pulling all those primary reports together on one overarching document. So each of those 2 documents are key in their own entity, primary and assessment, but they must pull those reports together. What's happened is, unfortunately, the industry has fallen foul in some respects of purely relying on assessment or the word secondary assessment, i.e., as someone mentioned before, you can set a door set manufacturing company up in your shed, quite literally, and start selling doors. You can, relying on other people's test assessment. That door's never been burnt in a fire. That door set with the frame has never been put through a proper test. And yet, there are lots of doors on the marketplace which have applied this regime. For instance, no names, no patriols, we've been testing burning door sets for LAs and HAs independently at various test houses. Doors we tested recently fouled after about 5 minutes. They literally disintegrated after about 5 minutes, which is just unbelievable. So just to reiterate, the smoke leakage test is a separate test, and it must be important that when whoever comes to check all these documents, when you receive your O&M manuals and all the certificates about your door sets, that somebody goes through that golden thread and checks that all the certificates align to the same door set each and every time. You'll be amazed how many certificates are out of date, aren't compliant to the right product, rely on another product. It does happen. And it sounds as if we're painting a very sordid picture. It's not. It's just that there is good compliance and there is ignorant compliance. There's no noise. Normally there's a bit of sound, and you'll hear what a burn test sounds like. For those who've been to Trada, BOE is pretty similar. Firstly, that's a primary test being conducted on a fire door set. What's key to note is that it is a complete door set. We've got the frame, all the ironmongery, there'll be a closer, threshold, etc. One key thing to note in that door is being burnt with the letter plate. There are door set manufacturers, when they burn their doors, who do not burn with the letter plate. They will assess in the letter plate secondary into their test evidence. Why do they do that? Because it's a blinking big hole in a door. So if you can get away with not burning a door with a hole in it and assess that in, people will do that. Equally, it's regarded as a non-essential piece of hardware, because obviously not every flat requires to have a letter plate. It doesn't have to be burnt with a letter plate. Again, little anomalies which are dotted lines around current testing standards. We obviously, through compliance and design, we do burn with a letter plate, and it gives you that reassurance, all about reassurance. As you can see here, the fan lights and the side screens have been burnt with the door, and we talked about multiple burn tests. What we do here, for instance, is we will turn round, it's difficult to see on the slide, but we turn the fan lights round, so one's tested from one way, one's tested from the other. For those who studied the composite door failures, you'll see a lot of them fouled on the glazing. The assumption would be what they were doing, because they only needed to test the door from the most onerous fashion into the furnace, is they may well have been putting one-directional glazing, single-directional glazing onto those doors, for instance. The fact that most of them fouled with glazing is a bit of an indicator that that was an issue. You need to see or proof that your glazing's been burnt from both sides. What we've done is we've taken decision, as of other door manufacturers, timber door manufacturers, even though the MHCLG are not asking for that to be a qualified remit, we are burning our doors both sides, solid, glazed, as are other manufacturers. It's all about peace of mind, really, and true competence. We talked about testing standards and provisions of testing from both sides. This is not just resilience, this is competence. So as you can see here in the test here, you can see the letter plate, solid door, tested from both sides and the test result. And again, as stated, just to re-emphasise, all those primary tests are then pulled together under your global assessment. And it's your global assessment, it's your peace of mind, your competence that we have provided you with a compliant door set. I always talk about the intrinsic three circles with door sets. You will spend, quite rightly, a considerable amount of money on the quiet product. Your product select a compliant product. Equally as important is the installation of that product. And it's sometimes secondary. You'll look at how much you spent on the door, weigh that up, and potentially, maybe, the installation isn't as high up that list as the manufacturing of the product, but it should be. It goes about competence. We'll talk about third-party qualification in a moment and certification. But going along, and the other intrinsic circle is maintenance. You wouldn't buy a lovely, flash new car leave it on the drive for 4 or 5 years and never have it MOT'd or serviced. You'd keep that car serviced because you spend a lot of money on it. And when the tyres start to get worn, you're not just going to kick them and wait till they literally worn down to the rubber. It's the same with fire doors. I'm sure for those who fire with success who've been out to buildings, you'll see on the top of doors where closers have been replaced so many times, there's different paint colour and there's hot holes, and what was probably a cam action closer has been replaced with a rack and pinion, or drop-down seals no longer perform, or the glazing's been just taped over, the worst case scenario. And all this is down to poor maintenance. And what poor maintenance is going to equal is, unfortunately, the doors aren't going to perform in a fire. So this fire on the right started in a bean chute area. And these are FD60s, and they've been in situ for at least 4 years before the fire. When we post-fire, when we inspected the doors, because they performed and they maintained compartmentation, obviously critical. When they maintain compartmentation, the main reason being is that the intermittents, the seals, had all performed correctly. And again, what we see time and time again is where seals have perished or been replaced with different types of seals. A different type of graphite, some other seal that wasn't originally burnt with that door. Doors are burnt with ironmongery, with fixings, fixtures, with sealants to perform as a complete door set. And this will all be detailed, and I'll show you where, this will all be detailed in a manufacturer's installation instructions. So you'll know how to install a door competently. It's not just a, God forbid, a back of a fag packet exercise. You should be provided with very competent, detailed installation instructions. And again, somewhere where the industry will rely on a standard, the door set manufacturer should be giving you that competence and helping provide you with that competence. I obviously like these intrinsic circles, and really this is key about third-party certification. We feel that third-party certification is very much part of the Hackett theme, and so it should be. We third-party certificate for our door sets. You have that third-party peace of mind that the door that maybe you purchased 10 years ago, and you're going to purchase that door for the next 10 years, that somebody's coming out to our factory and saying, yes, we are still manufacturing that same product to the same standards year after year after year. And that's key. You're not relying on, gosh, there's been a change in our manufacturing process and the quality of the product's degraded. It's the same quality product year after year. But this is also key in installation. You should receive a third-party certificate for your installation of your door sets. We talked about the compliance of your door. It's the only way you are going to guarantee that you have any indemnity for that product is a certificate, third-party certificate for the maintenance, third-party for the product itself, and those are key. And as you can see, we produce, as other manufacturers do, detailed installation instructions, and they are key because they will talk about ceilings, they will talk about how you fix the frame to the substrate, they will talk about gaps around doors, when to use what type of sealant. And this is key because there is a little conjecture. Somebody asked the other day, what do I do if I've got a gap of 3 mil? Can I just try and squeeze in some foam in that little gap, or should I use hardwood packer? It's specified, it's laid down for you in guidance. And if you don't understand our guidance, if it isn't simple enough, there is a default BS 8214, which is your default fallback. So there is no, I didn't know what to do, I wasn't sure. There is guidance out there and it already exists. All we've done is taken that guidance and taken it to another level. Traceability, finally, the golden thread appears. And really it's about making sure you have all the information on your product so you are compliant. So you know the product you have has stood up to the testing regime, has all its certification, and you are ticks in every box. And where does that apply? Well, we look at labelling. For those of you who know your doors very well, you'll know about small Christmas trees or the BWF certified sticker or plate on a door. You should see other stickering from the door set manufacturer so you know who's made the door. You want to know that if it's a flat door, that it's secure by design, PAS 24 labelling. So your door set should come labelled. And again, many a door, I know those who walk around FRAs, you'll look around a door looking for, you'll be happy to see any label, but sometimes you don't see no labels. And even in glazing, there's not even any kite mark in glazing. And someone will say, well, is it a fire-rated door? You just don't know. And the reason why we don't know is because we've been very bad at looking at the DNA of our products. Because when we look at what the information we provide, or we will provide you, it's a large set of information, all again pulled together in an O&M manual. But this includes the installation instructions, the product compliance, the product competency, all linking into the golden thread, which we believe starts with us. We are that start point of the golden thread. We provide you with the compliant product. What happens in the middle shouldn't differ from the product you receive at the end. Those two links are key. And finally, when we talk about, ignore the fact G-Smart, it's just our app, but there's other DNA-type apps out there. And we looked at another Q-tag system before, and it is the way ahead. We all now use mobile phones, most of us, and we understand how apps work. And we feel knowing the DNA of your door is as key as knowing the DNA of your door yesterday as it is tomorrow in 10 years' time. You need to know what closer went on that door today, so you know when to replace it in 10 years' time. You need to know what the fire rating of the door was, what the intermittents were. You need to know when it's been maintained. You can complete your fire risk assessment or simple fire risk assessment. There's no reason why somebody can walk around and check that the closers are still on your most critical doors, fire doors, monthly. But this should all be done electronically, so we're at least moving with the times. We're being a modern industry, and we're able to record and install and take photos. And this is key, and this is us really not investing back in products, but looking the way the industry is going on competency-based solutions. Thank you very much.